With the Fantastic Four First Steps box office officially sitting at $437 million worldwide, those are the global metrics, by the way, by both Marvel and Disney. Already as we speak, we have Disney CEO Bob Iger, Pedro Pascal, the actual lead actor of this film, playing Mr. Fantastic, and even Kevin Feige doubling down on damage control about this film and exactly why they didn't really hit those box office metrics as they once believed that they would actually hit. And now it's really all going out of control for the Walt Disney Company and everything else in between. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Bob Iger is that we know that he is a lying CEO. That's exactly why I always call him Bob Liger. All he does is lie to the general public, to the core customer base, to the shareholders, all to string them along into the following year in hopes that they would believe that they are shifting away from their Disney messaging, from DEI and all of that nonsense. Now, Bob Iger actually doubles down on a political narrative, and even, of course, going on to attack specific Trump supporters and MAGA, quote-unquote, one side of the country, obviously those that lean toward the right, and how Bob Iger is really just going out of control at this point because he doesn't know, quite frankly, what else to do, and is playing the blame game. Now, specifically, of course, we know one thing about Bob Iger right now is that not only did he turn this into a political talking point, but so did Pedro Pascal, and so did Kevin Feige as well. And that's all they really have going for themselves right now, because they know that this movie was the one piece of momentum for 2025 that would lead us into Spider-Man Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday in 2026. Now, with the Walt Disney Company, including its CEO Bob Iger, already engaging in damage control and playing the blame game after Fantastic Four was indeed an official box office disaster for Marvel Studios, one major development going on now involves Bob Iger blaming Trump supporters and the political landscape yet again for the reason of its failure. Iger delivered the following. As CEO, it is my responsibility to remain transparent with both our customer base and our shareholders. In regards to our latest project, the Fantastic Four First Steps, I feel it is absolutely necessary to address that any extreme criticism coming from the public and critics is obviously coming from one particular side of the country, specifically those that value this administration and what they have been doing against diversity, equity, and inclusion. To us here at the Disney Company, this is very concerning behavior coming from one side of the political landscape and the political spectrum that supports such beliefs that DEI is an agenda coming from the Walt Disney Company and other studios, and how this has led to an unnecessary movement to push moviegoers away from the cinema, and in our case for the Fantastic Four. It is in my firm belief that if our country was in a better state of unity, we would have achieved improved financial metrics for our latest Marvel film. What we do not tolerate here at the Disney Company are inflammatory critics and claims coming from one side of this country that is in favor of abolishing DEI from this industry and especially from the Disney Company. DEI is something that we value very much here at the Walt Disney Company in an effort to not only make the entire world feel welcome to the projects that we create, but to also reach a wider global audience for all our business models on hand. Now guys, let me say one thing about Bob Iger here. Now, he's obviously fumbling. He doesn't know what else to do at this point, right? He's turning this into a political debate, a political narrative, a political argument, if you will. And he's obviously going toward Trump supporters. He's obviously going toward those on the right and blaming them for why this movie is just not hitting specific box office numbers. Look, the reality of the situation is both people on the right and the left and in between just, quite frankly, didn't actually decide to go to the movie theaters to check out this movie. And in many cases, people thought it was just an okay movie, just a meh movie, a popcorn film, a one-off film that you would never watch a second time. And that's how I felt. It was just an okay popcorn movie, a 5, maybe a 6 out of 10 at best. And that's being nice. But one thing about this is that we know that there's a lot of people that love this movie, and that's a fact. But at the same exact time, look, for a Fantastic Four movie, for characters like The Thing, the Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic, all these different characters, the Human Torch, you would think that it would do much better results. It would actually have done better box office metrics when it comes to a Marvel movie, especially in 2025, especially given the fact that this movie did shift away a bit from the DEI narrative, and still, they just could not escape those box office metrics going in a downward spiral. Now, specifically, he goes on to continue, "We ask our customers to stop falling for false political narratives coming from one end to focus strictly on the entertainment that we create instead. Whether it's from Marvel Studios, Lucasfilm, and our live-action department in Pixar, we are proud to announce that we will never quit our pursuit of celebrating DEI in both film and television. We are living in a very delicate political time right now, mostly driven from a toxic perception of the film industry from this administration that has misguided so many people in this country right now. We are more than proud of what we created with the Fantastic Four, and all the creatives on board are proud to announce that the Fantastic family will find a forever home in the MCU, starting off with Avengers Doomsday. We do not accept critics coming from a political landscape from one end of the country. That is not how criticism should work in this business, and especially in this industry. As CEO, I will be making further announcements in the coming months on how we will be integrating DEI into our other business models and even new ones that have yet to be announced, and we look forward to supporting this movement." Now guys, this is very similar to what Kevin Feige talked about a couple of weeks ago, you guys may recall. During the Fantastic Four press tour, the beginning stages of it all, we know that he said that DEI is not going away, that he even said, well, if you're calling, our latest projects as woke or a DEI agenda, then that's here to stay. And he's obviously, kind of toying with the critics out there, and he's really just doubling down on that narrative and confirming that Disney is not shifting away from this entirely. They may have a film here and there that shifts away from that narrative because of storyline reasons, but that's the overall strategy by Disney, to actually have films that shift away from that, to create more funds available to actually throw those funds into other DEI-driven projects. Now again, we know one thing about Bob Iger is that he is desperately trying to create a narrative. He's also trying to actually create a legacy of his own before he steps down in 2026. Since the board members pretty much want him out at this point, right? They want a new CEO, they want somebody else to take over, and honestly, Bob Iger, I think he's getting tired of being a CEO at this point at Disney. But let me just say one thing about all of this, is that we know that the Fantastic Four should have done a lot better at the box office, especially given the fact that, like I said before, this is a film starting off the new phase of the MCU, a film that creates momentum for Spider-Man Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday, the two biggest movies next year for the MCU in 2026. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not we're actually dealing with actual Marvel fatigue or just regular Disney fatigue. And I think that you're going to find that out once those two films drop next year. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about Bob Iger, Pedro Pascal, Kevin Feige, the whole trio turning this into a political talking point for the Fantastic Four, when in reality, people are kind of just exhausted when it comes to some of these Marvel films and how Disney is throwing in the typical talking points. So overall, guys, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.